Hey everyone, I'm Christopher Cozy, and today we're taking a look at my everyday camera gear setup. Now, I needed something for on-the-go video and like trade shows, basketball games, and things like that. I originally wanted to go with the ZV-E1, but I was afraid of the overheating issues, and I did not want to have to use an added accessory to make it work when you're paying $2,000, $2,100, $2,200 for a camera setup. So what I ended up going with is this setup right here, which is, this is the Sony A7C II with a 24mm f1.4 with a Neewer variable ND setup on the front. I know, we'll go over that in a second, but I got this as a stopgap for the ZV-E1, but this may end up becoming my long-term photo hybrid setup. First up, the star of the show is my Sony A7C II. And this little guy pretty much solved all of my mobility headaches. I literally toss it in my bag and forget it's there until I need it because it's that small, and it's full frame. So I get that beautiful bokeh and depth while getting a lot of dynamic range without lugging around a brick, right? And this is really important because I take it with me, which is the biggest thing. Even when I don't plan to shoot, which means I often catch opportunities to shoot that I normally wouldn't get, versus having a large camera that I didn't want to take around all the time, like my FX30 or my A7S III, which I'm shooting on right now. And some of the features on this is a 33 megapixel full frame Exmor RBSI CMOS sensor, Bion's XR image processor. Nobody really cares about that stuff, but I have to say it. And it's up to 10 frames per second continuous shooting with autofocus and auto exposure. And it has an ISO range of 50 to 204,800. And this is 10-bit 422, 4K 30, and 4K 60p video, which we'll get to this 4K 60 here in a minute. Next is the 24mm 1.4 G Master lens. Now this is my do-it-all lens, and I use this pretty much for talking head. I use it for street photography. I use it for like low light video because of the fast aperture. You name it. That f1.4 aperture brings in a ton of light and gives me creamy bokeh. And I think this is perfect for beginners and pros alike. Of course it's good for pros, but for beginners as well. If I could go back again, this would have been the first lens that I purchased. And thanks to the Razor optics, like this thing is tack sharp, I can crop in during editing. So without losing detail, which is the biggest thing. And because it's 24mm, I can punch in using the optical zoom. And when using, I can say a lot of ands, and when using stabilization, because it starts with such a wide view, I can use the stabilization, and so even as it crops in with the stabilization to make sure it's not shaky footage, I'm still getting a pretty good range of view, if you will. I can even use it for vlogging, which is not ideal, starting at 24mm and then punching in with the optical or OSS. But it's not the worst either. So the biggest features on this is that it's a full frame format, and the aperture range is f1.4 to f16. It has 13 elements in 10 groups, and minimum focal distance is 9.4 inches, how close you can get to something while in focus, or 24 centimeters. And it has an active filter thread of 67mm, which gets me to the next part of my kit. Since I shoot outdoors with my kids, I needed a simple, affordable ND solution. So that's where the Neewer 2.1 variable ND filter set comes in. And for YouTube and personal projects, it's done the job, right? And as a stopgap, maybe one day I'll upgrade to a pricier pro option, but for now it keeps my exposure and shutter speeds super flexible and bright light. It's 1 to 5 stops plus a CPL on the front for reflective surfaces, and for my non-professional work, it's been good for what I need. I know, before you get in the comments, don't put a cheap or affordable filter on top of a expensive setup, but it's done the job for what I need. Again, maybe I'll do something more expensive in the future, but for now, it's done exactly what I need. As far as accessories, on the audio side, I've got a couple of live mics in rotation, like the Full Aim X6, which I have on right now, and the X5, and the Comica VM40 shotgun mic, which I can put on the camera, but I can also run wirelessly. And for comfort and speed, I use a Falcam neck strap, along with the F38 quick release system that goes on the bottom. And I use a Lexar Professional V62 card. I know you can go to V90, but there's no need for me to upgrade those yet because I've been able to use everything that I need to use. The A7C II only has one card slot, which, I mean, for what I do, YouTube and on-the-go type stuff, I think is completely fine. Honestly, I really think that if you pair this with a decent card, it's pretty much fine overall. It's not bulletproof, but it is fine. And that's my EDC camera carry, the Sony A7C II 24mm f1.4 G Master, Neewer V&D filter, and a handful of must-have accessories. And I'm excited for the eventual ZV-E1 Mark II. But until then, this setup ticks pretty much all my boxes. But it's not perfect. You know, there's a couple quirks. The 4K 60 has a crop, which basically means that some lenses you can't use with it and get the same look that you were looking for. So you will have to compensate for that crop when wanting to use that 4K 60. And it doesn't have 4K 120, which my FX30 has, which is less. I know it's a cinema camera, etc., but for rapid action on the go, for like speed ramps and things like that when I'm shooting basketball, I really wanted a compact camera for that, which is why I wanted the ZV-E1, which is why I ended up with this, and I was like, okay, but anyway, it doesn't have that, so for right now, it's doing what it has to do, but again, I'll have to upgrade in the future. Worst of all, though, for $2,000, it overheats extremely fast when streaming. They kind of pegged this as a USB streaming camera, but 15-30 minutes in, it's hot and turning off, even with the high heat settings off. So that was weird and kind of threw me for a loop. And sometimes it refuses to read one of my Lexar cards, which most likely points to the card and its age because it's one of the older ones, because I have 4 of those cards and 3 of the 4 work perfectly fine. So I'm gonna say that's the card, not the Sony A7C II, but I did have to point it out here because that card works perfect in my FX30 and my A7S III with no problem. It only doesn't work in my A7C II, which I don't know, you let me know. But if you're looking for a lightweight full frame daily shooter that's beginner friendly, and I think it packs a lot of pro features, I highly recommend this combo. And I'll have links to all the gear in the description below, but let me know, what's your daily carry? What are you rocking today? And what do you plan? What do you think about these upcoming rumors of the FX2 and things like that? I'm kind of holding my seat until I see a new ZV-E1 Mark II because of what I want to use it for. But that's it. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, stay cozy in that crazy world, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.